Blessed greetings, everyone.
Greetings each and every one of you. Well, this is Servant David. And if you're looking for health awareness, elevation, games, stories, songs, comedy, and more, then come check me out. Servant David Show. Holly man and woman them know. Content for your channel start grow. Top right just of the all the info. You hear the name in the intro. Hi, my name is Billy Bob Joe Johnson, John Flower Home, corner of the cop. And I watch Servant Davis show every chance I get. Yeah, that's a fact. Tune in, subscribe. You get gospel comedy and all type of stuff. Yeah.
How you doing? 1 second. Blessed greetings, everyone. I don't think nobody is in here, so I'm just gonna wait a minute. Just give me a minute. I'm just kind of sharing this thing out. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so blessed welcome to you. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you. I don't know who that is. But what are your views on the topic of today? What are your views on children having certain toys to play with? You know, and I know not every child is the same, not every person is the same, so every child can't be the same. But as far as like dolls, the naked Barbie dolls and the Ken dolls and stuff like that, and the babies, the baby dolls itself, with Pampers and bottles and all those type of things, guns, you know, um, even the electronic games that they play, like those violent games, Grand Theft Auto and other games, like what are your views for children and what ages should children play with certain games? Like what's your views on it? Kim, blessed greetings, my sister. How are you? Well, what I'm talking about is, you know, what are your views on, um, certain toys for certain children or for children, period. From toy guns to naked dolls, violent electronic games, PlayStation, Xbox games, those violent games, stuff like that, you know? Yeah, so that's the topic. Like, what do you think, Kim? Like, because the way I see it, and this is not for every child. It doesn't mean because you play with certain things, you're going to definitely end up certain ways, but there is a percentage, and that's a high percentage of children that do end up, you know, becoming or wanting to be what they play with. Like for instance, okay, you have a child who gets toy guns all the time or likes toy guns more than they like the other game, the other toys and stuff like that. And they play with the toy and they play cowboy, Indian, they play cops, robbers, all kind of different things. And they run around, pow, pow, shoot, 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 And as a child, I did have toy gun, and it never really was my thing too tough, but I've had a few toy guns, and I did not turn out to be a gunman or anything like that. You know what I mean? Or shooting anybody or anything like that. But in my adulthood, I've handled guns. Now is that because of part of my past? I don't know. But you have some who they start off with the little plastic gun. You can't even do nothing. It may even be a wooden gun. It's just shaped in the form of a gun. And that enticed them, and they're running around, pow, pow, pow. Now, they kind of get sick of the pow, pow, of making the noise themselves. So now you get guns that make the noise, and the kid doesn't have to say the pow, pow. Then you get some that you can put little, not fire, like firecracker type thing in it, and it really sounds like a pow. And then they say, well, I'm kind of bored of this, so that's when they start getting into electronic games and stuff like that. And out of all the games that they could choose to play with or play, they play games that have shooting in it. And then they probably get older and they end up, being involved in gun stuff. As for baby dolls, I kind of see like a lot of people who are young mothers, who become young mothers, and no, not every female or every male turns out to be like that. There is a percentage, and I'm just talking on. I'm not really talking about percentages on which is higher or which is more or whatever. I'm just speaking on what are your views on this? Like, do you think it's wise to, buy naked dolls and buy dolls that can be naked and baby dolls so that they could practice how to want to be a mother or a parent, and just things like that. Like, what's your views on it? Some are not, no, most are not naked when you buy them, but the clothes can come off of them. And most of the time, when you do buy them, okay, they're brought with the clothes. They get into the house, and most of the time, those clothes don't stay on that doll. Again, this is not every child. This is not every person. I was bad. So I am one of that percentage of the kids that think certain ways and that are much smarter and aware of things that you might think that they don't know about. I used to play with guns. I've played with baby dolls. I've played with dolls. The Ken and the Barbie doll. And I've done some things with them. When I realized, the clothes can come off, and I see how Barbie's chest is, etc., etc., I put one on top of the other, and I was bad. I was bad from young. I'm not proud of it, but I speak truth, and that's who I was. I remember, like, a lot of times, you women, especially you women who are, pretty or attractive and shape good, if you think that kid don't know that you shape good and you got nice bosoms and this and that and you're sadly mistaken. Because I remember being a kid, and I was so bad they used to call me Mr. Loverboy. Because I was flirty, sort of kindish, but I also like to get the pickup. And I can lay down in their lap and put my head on their chest and my hand on them. And because I'm a child, they're not paying no attention, but I feel up breast and all them things from childhood. There are many like that. I'm telling you, if I was not one or used to be one, I would not be able to even believe or comprehend that a child would think things like that and do things like that. So what are you saying, my sis? Kim says, I don't like the violent games, but they're not going to be a criminal. It's all in their heads. True. And the type of influence they have in their lives. True. And may I add, in their homes. And may I also add, in their homes. Give me a couple of minutes. Let me go deal with this real quick. But yeah, it's not it's not everybody, and it is kind of in the mind, you know. It is kind of in the mind when it comes to some. In case you want, I'm just sitting, I'm baking some chicken and some rice. We're not baking the rice, but you know, and the rice is already done. See, and the chicken is here. Chicken and potatoes. But yeah, you know. Like you said, it's in the mind. So with it being in the mind, would that be safe to say that since it's in the mind already, let's say that child never got a toy gun, never had a toy gun. Does that still mean like they're going to constantly handle guns as they get older, or might not? Or does the toy gun influence and encourage for them to even want it even more and more? Or is it just a toy? And if it's just a toy, then why do they prefer the toy gun over a Blue's Clues doll, or an arcade game, or a dump truck, a train set? You know, there are many different type of toys. You know, and I know this live thing can be kind of slowish and delayish. So as I said, I was just sitting here. I'm gonna try to show you again. The camera can be funny. So that's the white rice and some baked chicken. I'm not sure if you can see that too good. Nothing big. Nothing big at all. Got about another 10 minutes maybe. Nowadays you never know. You're right about that. Right about that. Nowadays you never know. I'm just going to sit in my office, you know, in my man cave, so we can finish this conversation. I hope more can come on. It'd be nice. I know it's kind of early, a lot probably at work. But yeah, you're right. Nowadays, you never know. You never know. You never know what's on a person's mind nowadays. That's facts. That's facts. That is facts. I'm trying to invite some people or remind some people. I was actually running late myself. But yeah, um, I don't know. It can be tricky because, like I said, you say it depends on your mindset or frame of mind and the growing up in the home and lives, which is true, and it's not too much different from kind of what my views of it either. Blessed greetings. I don't know. I just saw two more people come in, so I don't know who else might be here, but blessed welcome. Feel free to leave your comment, on this view. No view is wrong. The only thing that would be wrong is if you disrespect somebody else's view. Everybody has the right to express their feelings their way. Sort of, kind of. As long as it's respectful. Don't cuss nobody or nothing like that. And most of the people who follow me or should be following me wouldn't be using certain disrespectful things anyways, unless they were violated themselves. And I had to add that because that's me. I won't disrespect anybody. I'll walk away from any confrontation that there is to walk away from. But if I'm violated, I will react in ways that people will say or question my relationship with God. But when they do that, I just say, well, Jesus was one of the most holy people we've heard about. And so were a lot of his disciples. And if I'm not mistaken, one of his disciples cut off a soldier man's ear. Now, he cut off his ear because he didn't have a gun. In those days, they didn't have guns. So I'm quite sure if they had guns back then, he would have shot the soldier instead of cut off his ear. But does that make him any less holy or further away from God? I don't think so, and it doesn't say so. So, but that's off the topic. The topic is, what are your views on the toys that we allow our children to play with? What are your views? I need a stand. I need a light. You know, so what other views you have about, like, okay, what type of games do your kids or have your kids played with? Which ones do they prefer the most, or which ones do you allow them to get? What type of toys and what type of things like that have you gotten for your kids? And then how old are your kids from the time you got the toy and till they are now? And like, but like just give, if you feel, give your input on your experience, or even your personal experience. Like, what type of toys did you have as a child? You know, and it even goes, this topic goes even further than just toys. It's also cartoons, TV shows that we watch, or the children are watching. I've seen some cartoon. I'm sleeping and I wake up during the night or whatever, maybe to go use the bathroom, get something to drink, whatever, you know. And the kids are in their room, and they fall asleep with the TV on or whatever. So now you go in there and you notice some cartoon with up on the TV. They're not even discreet for with what they're doing. Cussing, sexual things, sexual. Gestures and slangs and all those things. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I don't know. This this society has, my opinion, this society has done and is doing a lot to to influence mankind into wrongdoings. You know, like I don't know. I don't know. I personally won't buy toy guns. I'm not gonna buy too much dolls neither, especially if the clothes can, come off of the child. You know, have I brought those toys? Yes, I have. You know, um, and it turned out kind of two different ways because with one, she used to. I used to get her like dolls, like baby dolls and stuff like that, where the dog talk, the dog pees, the dog cacas, the dog does all those things. You know what I mean? And she took care of that dog like it was her baby. She followed her mother footsteps kind of in a way. And when I say follow her footsteps, I mean like they'd be walking in the store and she have the baby in a stroller. Like just I don't know. And then now she get pregnant young. There was another one where because of the first, I was skeptical to get the baby doll. So I didn't want the girl to get the doll, but somehow down the line, she's a girl, somebody in the family, somehow she's gonna end up with a doll. And you can't really take back the toy, So she ends up with also a baby doll that kind of did the same thing as the other one, but not as much. But it was a baby doll, and she took care of that baby doll like it was her own baby doll. And she hasn't had any kids yet, and she's up there in age, So like I said, it's not everybody is the same. It's just what are your views? Like, do you think they should make dolls with clothes that don't come off, or like should they have toy guns, especially in these days? Can having these toys be good influence for the kids? Can it teach them good things? Because you even have like toy stoves that can entice a child to want to cook. You have toys that actually do cook things. You know what I mean? Bless, welcome to you. I don't know who you are. I just see someone else just came in though. But bless, welcome to you. And if you'd like to join, I wish you would join and give me your views on what do you think about certain electronic games that the kids play with, cartoons that they watch, TV shows that they watch, toy gun, naked dolls. Like when I say naked dolls, They do sell dolls that are naked with no clothes on them. Some are in the package and the doll itself is naked and you have the clothes on another part of the toy. And some are just dolls but dressed. Most of the time you will find the dolls with the clothes on. I think they kind of have to do that. I don't know how that runs, but most of the time that's how you will find the doll is with the clothes on. But as I said earlier, yes, the doll is brought with the clothes on, but once the doll gets into the home, those clothes barely stay on that child. Or, I mean, not that child, on that toy. You know, and they claim all the clothes are lost or this and that. And again, like I said, as a child, I remember playing with certain toys that now I would not recommend for children. But it's not every child that are influenced by these said things like toys and games and stuff like that. But there is a concerning percentage, you know, and I'm speaking as one of those children who grew up now and looking back and saying, wow, like really? Or maybe it was just me. Maybe I'm the one out of the billion children that did some freaky nasty stuff as a child and all those things. Maybe, I don't know. So who's still there? If you're still there, can you type present? 1 minute, 1 minute. You know, baby dolls with Pampers, and you know they urinate and caca and all those things, and you got to change diapers, and basically teaching a child, in my view of it, it's basically a form of teaching a child to be a mother or a father, and at the same time, when you teach them to be that, they kind of want that, especially if they themselves might feel like they're not getting the love that they want or deserve in the house. So they generate all that energy to that baby doll as something that's theirs. And as time go on, I think some of them tend to want one for their own. And I'm aware of the possibility that that can even happen without a child getting one of those dolls as a toy to play with. You know, toy guns. You know, I think it entices a child to want to have a gun. That's just my view on it. You know, what are your views on it? Nothing better. No, well, yeah, there's a lot better. Cause you can give your time to God too. You know? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yup, yup, yup. Put me there, man. You all right? All right, pops. Yeah. So who's still in here? Simone, you gone? Kim, you gone? So you saying, so Chrissy, you're saying true to what I'm saying, or what exactly are you saying true to? I'm assuming what I just said. I know this thing, this LS thing. I've learned that it can have a delay to it. So I'm try my best to bear with it and work. Work with it. But but yeah, what I mean. You never really, you never know a child's mind. And especially nowadays, children are much, much more smarter than what we tend to accept they are. You know. Bless welcome, Sean. Bless welcome. Bless welcome. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. I know you're out and about and you're doing your thing, but bless welcome and I appreciate you coming. But real quick, what are your views on this? Oh wow, you make dolls. That's good actually. That's good that you do something like that. You know, and that just shows you that I'm guilty of not going over to your to your place to check you out. You know the way that I try to preach, and it's not that I don't do it. It's just it's so many people. It's hard to do everybody, and then at times you kind of forget all the people that you are, family with. So but I'm gonna. What did I do? I know I had it somewhere. So what I did, I started to basically write people down so that I can go to them and return, even though we're family, because it's not just about the S's. 27. So I just added you to my list. And please, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I see some people even coming on my video upload. episodes, and they comment and they come faithfully, you know. Shoot, Jesse Simone is one of them, and even Shanna Mark, and I don't get the chance to go over to them as often as they come over to me, which I feel bad about that, and I need to fix that, you know. But yeah, Sha, and what's your view on toy dolls, toy guns, toy baby dolls, violent games, you know, things like that? Like even there's a new game now, and adults play it too. But there's a new game. I'm not really into games like that, so I may be calling these games a little wrong. But Xbox and I think PlayStation, you know, they have games like Call of Duty. Now, I don't recommend anyone go to the service or the military, especially the U.S. military, or nothing like that. That's just my views. But the service has its, being in the military does have its good about it, you know. So the military is good in a way, you know. But Call of Duty is basically like a military thing. And in real life, the military is there for purposes. It's there for certain purposes. And they are, each uh, service is called for its required duty, whether it be Navy SEALs, the Marines, the Army, you know, you have different ones. So the Marines, you know, they have different ones. So in Call of Duty now, it looks like you're in the Army or in the military. But what is the purpose on that game? From what I get to see is just shoot people who are in uniform. I don't see them saving people or anything like that. I see a lot of seeking out, and find someone and shoot them, and try your best not to shoot your teammate. Like, why? What's the point? What's the moral of the game? What do you learn from that game? You know, like in life, I think everything should have moral to it. Everything. From you breathing to the wind blowing should have a meaning, have a moral to it. So what's the moral for these toys that these children are playing with and allowed to have and play with? Or even if they don't have it, but they desire it. Because there are a lot of kids who don't have certain toys, but they really desire to have it, whether it be a doll, a gun. A guitar, anything, any kind of toy, you know, that they desire but they don't have. Why do they desire that thing? Why do they prefer that toy? Why you think they prefer that toy? Uh, sorry, excuse me. Let's think. Okay, I'm sorry, missing some of the types here. So Shan says, I think they should make clothes for the doll. They do. They do make clothes for the doll, but they also make dolls without the clothes. And most dolls, they do have clothes on them when you buy them. But my thing is, the clothes, they come off. Shan, you weren't here earlier. And I was telling them that I'm not just speaking off of views or topics or whatever. And speaking of topic, this topic here was given to me. I've thought about this topic before, not necessarily to you know, go live with it or anything, but I've talked about it and I've thought about it before, you know. But someone um brought this topic up and said, you know, I should do it as one of my LS. And I'm not sure if that person wants me to mention their name, so I'm just not, you know, and it's irrelevant of who it is. But the person, you know, recommended that I do this LS, and it took me almost 2 weeks to come and do it. So I'm doing it now. But yeah, like I was saying, I'm not just speaking off of views or trying to come up with a topic so that I could get, you know, whatever. I'm also speaking on this topic from experience. And me, as someone who used to be a child, I remember how I was at my childhood. No, I don't remember everything, but I'm going to remember a lot. And I do remember a lot. You know, and I remember being a child and I had toy guns, I had toy trucks, I had toy dolls, or if I didn't specifically have the doll, like the Ken and Barbie dolls and the stuff like that, I knew someone who did have those toys. So when you with those kids, you play with their toys sometime and stuff like that. And me as a child, I was not the average child. Mentally, I thought a little bit older, you know. And when I realized that the clothes could come off of the doll, what do you think went through my mind when I saw the breasts and the nakedness down there and everything? And then I look at the guy and I say, well, how come the guy doesn't have anything? But like most children do, they use their imagination. And that's what I did. I used my imagination and I imagined that that toy, I'm sorry, look like my battery is about to die and I'm not even, yeah, so that toy, I would take that toy and have the two of them, the two toys, do adult things. Do the dogo. As a child. So if I was like that as a child, I can only imagine that there are other children out there who do the same thing. I can only imagine that there are other children out there who do the same thing. Christy says, I prefer Minecraft. It's more on the creative side. True. Minecraft is, I haven't played it, but I've heard about it and I've seen it. You know, and you have to be kind of be creative to play that game. You know, but yeah, Sean, like I was saying, I remember putting the dolls together to kiss and get on top of one each other and all those things. I even remember being a child and would love to get picked up by women so that I could put my head on their chest and, you know, hold on to them. And they thought I was just being a kid. They thought I was, but in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, I get to fill up this person and oh man, this and oh man, that. In my mind as a child. You know? So, Sean, you said trucks and cars are okay. Yeah, they're all right. They're good. They're good to have, would be a good choice that I would rather choose for a child over the gun or the dolls. I would prefer get them a baseball set. I would prefer get them, you know, a train set. or something like that, you know. But Chrissy made a very good statement when she said Minecraft is a good game. You know, checkers is a good game. Chess is a good game. You know, Connect Four is a good game. Games that make you wanna think. Even Monopoly is a good game. There are many games and toys out there for kids that can be played or given to. But why do the kids prefer those three that I mentioned? Why do most kids prefer those three that I mentioned? Or why do you think those kids prefer those? And excuse me, but I'm very tired. Not getting much sleep lately. You know, life situations giving me a couple uppercuts and stuff like that. So kind of tired. So who else is in here with me? Okay, so Shine, you're still here. Oh, the service giving trouble. Oh, I think it might be everywhere. I think it might be everywhere too because mine been like buffering and freezing and all kind of stuff from the Facebook to the YouTube. I'm like, what the hell? I think there's a storm somewhere too. So that could be a part of it. But yeah, I like I said, even some of the cartoons that the the kids are watching. It's ridiculous. It is crazy. The stuff that they have and the subliminal messages that they have. Them subliminal messages is crazy. Oh, rain or fall. Technology is becoming popular now, so people are creating all types of games. Chrissy, yes, that is right. They are creating all types of games, and there are. I feel safe saying there's millions of games that can be created where it's non-violent, where it's non-sexual. There's no hidden messages in those games. So why does the majority put out things that can be of such negative influence and stuff like that on people? Because there are many games that you can invent. Yours too, Chrissy? Wow. Wow. So what's yours doing? Is buffing, or is it just kicking you out of certain things? Mine. I could be watching a video on YouTube and it's buffing. Just start buffing. Just start buffing. Even here during this LS, a few times it went like it wanted to buff or act crazy. Move a little bit. Going in the shade, you know. Oh, it's freezing sometime. Kids prefer phones and tablets. Okay. And phones and tablets are they could be forms of toys, but they're mostly more of a device. So let's look at the games that are played on these phones and tablets. The games that they play, is it wise for them to be playing those games or have access to those games? Man, this would happen. Nah, sorry. So who is in here with me? Sharon, you still here? I figured that. So is it me, you, and Chrissy? No, because it wouldn't count myself. Once me I sweat, right? I know say hot. Yeah, hot, man. And it's not even hot, it's muggy. It's more muggy.
Many years ago, I grew up in the city, East Kingston, very happy. Where go way back. So we're going to it's the rock king with a virgin in the house. The ruler brown network. We're go way back. So we're going to start off so that some of the folks who don't know who you are, they hear me talk about you every day. They must say, "Oh, this is Danny Roberts, 6'5" sitting beside me. 4. 6'4"? You got 1 inch shorter since anyway, big man, welcome and morning, everybody. Yes, indeed. Oh, yeah, morning. Morning, everybody. You hear my chat now, man. Hey, this man sit down in a parliament go every week. But before we get into that, go on for him just to give us a thumbnail sketch in terms of Danny Roberts. I know it, but I want for him to speak to those of you in the many countries and internet who would like to know a little bit about it before we're going to wrap. So, Danny, just tell the people who you are, when you get started, and just those big steps to where you are today. And we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks for the invite. Greetings to the massive right across the diaspora. Well, started many years ago. I grew up in the inner city, East Kingston, Barrett Avenue, Mountain View, lower part of Mountain View, upper part of Mountain View. Spent all my life there. Grew up with siblings, two brothers, two sisters. My mother had three children previously, who were very close to know. Went to Kingston Technical High School. Briefly played Manning Cup. Was the goalkeeper. Please don't ask me. Yeah, right? No, please. Don't go there.
All right.
Yes. So I tell you what, you went check the record, and I went to be embarrassed. But did a little of that. Left high school, Kingston Technical. Got a scholarship, the African, Caribbean, and Pacific European Economic Commission scholarship to do a BA degree in communication and social science at the University of the West Indies. Did my internship in Grenada under Maurice Bishop.
Didn't know that.
Yes. Worked with Free West India. Have been a columnist. I've written articles for the Jamaica Herald. There's a newspaper, I think in the 1990s, Jamaica Herald. Was a regular columnist there. I've done radio commentary and television commentary on BBC, and both the television and the radio side. And I was the editor of the first newspaper for the Guild of Undergraduates, the Beat. I was the editor-in-chief. Yeah, then...
So, and so the point here is the reason why we ask persons like yourself to give that brief bio is to say, wow, we understand you grew up in the ghetto around Mountain View and all those areas, and here you are. You reach to the pinnacle. My thing is, I want for you to articulate to people what are some of the characteristics, are some of the things, the strengths, are some of the things that you learned. You know, I talked about for me when I said I grew up in Jatlin, and if I were to do it again, I would do it because it builds the character. Talk a little to the people, because there's a lot we're going to cover here now. We're just touching on a little bit. So just cover it for me.
Well, there are a couple of very important things. First of all, you need to know yourself. There's a sense of self that you need to acquire. That is a challenge for many of us who are the victims of a post-colonial era, a post-traumatic slave syndrome. We tend not to have a deeper and better sense of ourselves. So that's the first thing. And that sense of self leads to humility.
Right.
Because of humility. But you also...
Let me just say that this interview was done on the Ruler Brown Network show. You guys go check him out. You can find him on Facebook. Ruler Brown. Ruler, that's RULA RUELBROWN. Ruler Brown Network. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on YouTube. I believe Instagram as well. Check him out. Yeah?
To have a sense of purpose right? Purpose driven. You have to know what it is that you want to accomplish. Your life is like a business. People have to plan a 5-year, 10-year cycle. People need to plan, and one of the things I try to do is that every 5 years I must see an improvement in my life, spiritually, economically, socially, professionally, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a sense in which you have to come to see life as representing a purpose for which you have a role to play, and all of us have a role to play in life.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to value that, but it has to really to begin with that sense of self.
Now, along the way, with those sense of self and sense of purpose, struggles, pushbacks, fightbacks, what was that like? And I'm sure in anything, when you're trying to get ahead, there's sometimes persons out there looking to pull you back.
Well, I suppose part of that sense of self is a kind of an attitude and the purpose-driven life that you set about to achieve. So, for example, I think that most of the setbacks for me, I've actually flipped it. I've actually turned it on its head.
Yes.
And try to see the value out of every seemingly dark cloud and find the silver lining and pursue it. So much of the things that I probably have accomplished really have been out of that contradiction, that dialectics that flow between what it may appear to be a negative, but what is the upside to that.
Right.
And I think that really has been a kind of a mantra for me and a focus.
No. Many other persons have heard me talk about 63 Mountain View. I'm at 58 Mountain View across the Jarrett Lane. First of all, how come you never say about Jarrett Lane? Can't be that probably beat your face.
No, we actually played. You remember 63 now, that open lot?
Yes,
this is really the main entrance. You let the bar, etc. Right. So we played a lot of football there. So we had our sides on 63 side, so we have gathered. My brother Freddie, right? Big up Freddie. Yeah. Would occasionally play with Sugar and others, Cross 58, like Old Blood, etc.
Yeah.
But I was more reserved, quiet type. I'm an introvert.
Where do you want to go?
I'm an introvert, and I'm very shy.
Yeah.
So I kind of kept to myself and focus on some other things.
Mm-hmm. No, I left Jamaica in 75. Were you over 63 at that point?
Yes,
63.
Yes.
So I am sure I've seen you probably out of Miss went in the shop there. Miss the one out at the front. Miss T.
Miss T.
Yeah. And over the across the street.
Yes. We don't probably pass these.
Yeah, but not really to talk to.
No.
Yeah. So when I first got links to you was when I started Palace in 2010. And I don't know if it was my brother who arranged it. Just tell the people about that.
No, actually, I co-hosted a morning radio program at the University of the West Indies radio station. And one morning we had this interview with a Ruler Brown. Now I know Devon and I, which is Ruler's brother, very close. Right. That's another time together during those early years. So. In the discussion, in the interview, Ruler Brown, talked about this Palace achievements, etc. He mentioned, as he always does, Jarrett Lane.
Mm-hmm. And
then the connection came. I said, because Devon has been the one who have been saying to me, boy, I got brothers an engineer, named Ruler, and then my great and da. Right. So in that discussion now, I recognized that the connection is this actually, Devon's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the number, and immediately after the show, I called.
Right.
And the connection was instant.
Mm-hmm.
I told him I'd certainly like to help. Education is a gateway to liberation.
Right.
Certainly for those of us who have a particular history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I immediately jumped on the opportunity, and that friendship really has blossomed immensely.
Yeah, man, definitely. And let me just add, for a young man who I hadn't, mingled with Adalco youth and so forth. But the connection, this man had got off vibes and energy. And I remember when Debbie, my wife, in the final 3-6 months when she was going through some troubling times, this young man here used to call me at least 3 times a week, extending, passing on energies and vibes, and it give you strength. Sometimes I remember I mentioned to Debbie that Danny called. She's never met Danny, but she also felt the energy and really helped me out. But the key thing with Danny now is a man who's very caring. I remember when we started the Palace thing. Again, remember, I didn't know the man, he probably wasn't aware of my character to that extent. But I remember the first year when we started the Palace thing, and you said, Rula, don't worry, man, this is a good thing. As a matter of fact, Danny said that I could be on many other big boards in Jamaica, but something about Palace that drew him to us. And he started to make things happen, bringing in all these politicians. Did you have any reservation about extending the Palace thing for us?
Yeah. On the reservation, I didn't start from day one.
Oh, from day one.
Okay. I mean, this is just perfect. I think education is a big thing for me, and the circumstances and the conditions under which this arose was even more touching and sentimental in many respects. But happy to have contributed and really appreciated the fact that you invited me to be part of this.
Yeah, and indeed, Mr. Patrick Campbell, we cannot leave his name out of this dialogue, who was done at 54 Mountview.
Yes.
Paul Campbell, the famous Jamaican actor, was 63, where you from. So you see, here it is.
I need to reach out to Paul Campbell.
Yeah, man. But here it is that something could get to you. Let's use them terms, raw terms. Here we are today. This man has risen to one of the highest points in Jamaica. The trade union systems in Jamaica. Somebody told me you started that when you were about 17 or something like that.
No. When I left university, I joined the National Workers Union, which is arguably the largest trade union in Jamaica, which is affiliated to the People's National Party. I served, my apprenticeship really has been in the PNP Youth Organization. I was acting national chairman for about a year. Sat on the PNP's National Executive Council, PNP's executive, etc. So I joined the NWO, rose to the position of vice president of the NWO.
Wow.
And we had a clerical arm of the union known as UKIS, the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees. And as the president of that, we also established Confederation of Trade Unions, that is bringing all the trade unions in Jamaica together under one umbrella. And I was a founding vice president of that organization. For the last 10 years of my involvement in the union movement, I was vice president for the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions. I also served for 3 years as a president of an international trade union youth organization, the International Confederation of Free Trade Unions Youth Committee. I served as president for about 3 years, which necessitated me traveling at least 3 times a year to Europe for meetings.
Wow.
Germany, Spain, France,
Wow.
Yes.
No, sitting in, I remember one of the things you told me, because you're going to touch on that also, the IMF was instrumental in the monetary situation and so forth, and the progress of Jamaica. And I remember one of the time you told me that you were in a meeting and certain things may be sensitive. So if you can't mention something, you will understand, seeing that your position. But I remember you were saying sometimes you have to be in meetings with these guys and trying to make them understand Jamaica's economic situation and pushing back. Can you relate any one or two anecdotal scenarios?
Yeah. Well, there are two things. Well, when I left the NWO, the trade union movement, I went to university of the West Indies to head an institute that was responsible for trade union development. It's a regional institution known then as the Hugh Lawson Shearer Trade Union Education Institute.
Right.
But since then, I've transformed it. It is now the Hugh Shearer Labour Studies Institute, because what we have done now is that we have incorporated not only curricula that deals with trade union development, but the wider labour force, labour market issues, labour studies issues. So we offer training to both employers and employees, so managers, senior managers. We have several courses that we have run over those years. During the GLP's reign in 2007, we had some challenges with the International Monetary Fund, and then Prime Minister Bruce Golding invited Andrew Holness to serve as co-chair of Public Sector Transformation Committee, in which there were some specific objectives set out under the IMF program. In fact, we had something like 14 or 15 specific objectives, which were deal breakers.
Right.
And so under my chairmanship, we were able to successfully achieve all of those. Right? And so Jamaica was able to successfully complete its program. And insofar as the public sector transformation aspect was concerned, we were able to do that.
Wow. A lot of times you hear people in the diaspora and elsewhere talk that the IMF was not good for Jamaica and one world for issues and so forth. What have you heard? And do you agree with that sentiment that the IMF mess up Jamaica and all them things?
Well, in an earlier dispensation, certainly in the 1970s, in the era of Michael Manley, there were obviously ideological divide in terms of economic approach to development between Jamaica and the International Monetary Fund. At that time, we had two competing economic models, if you like, and the objective of the exercise really, from the perspective of the Michael Manley government, was really to broaden ownership of the economic base so that as much Jamaicans as possible can have a stake in development, to create a sense of egalitarianism and social justice through programs that are able to meet the needs of the dispossessed and the underserved. The IMF economic philosophy was on an entirely different trajectory, capitalist based. Therefore, the importance of having the owners of capital lead the development process, and therefore the notion of the trickle-down economic model was primary. So there's a less of a role for the state, while the Michael Manley government saw an important role for the state in terms of even engaging in a controlling commanding heights of the economy. And that those are those sectors of an economy that has a distributive impact upon the population. And so that sense of equity can only be achieved when the government controls I think the IMF has recognized, because it certainly has messed up many countries in Africa and elsewhere during that time. But I think that in recent times, or the last 10 to 15 years, they have reformed considerably. They still operate, of course, outside of the Washington Consensus model. Still believe that economic determinism must be driven by considerations of big business, etc. But there is a space and an accommodation and a recognition about the need to have some form of welfareism, if you like, as part of the model of economic development that the country ought to pursue. And so in the last 2 to 3 administrations, so insofar as the IMF programs are concerned, Jamaica had a great deal of say in the formulation of that. As I said, partly because of a recognition by the IMF about the social development aspect, which is crucial to third world countries like ours. And so we're able to strike a balance between the two. I think it has also been quite helpful in the sense that we now have a monolithic economic model. Right? So there's no competing economic approach, just a question of what is the best means by which the distributive effect of the gains that arises from economic activities are dealt with. And that's really where the difference resides.
So would you say, going back to the 50s and 60s, one of the information you told me sometime last year, when you think about Jamaica, say 25, 30 years ago, the GDP, the gross domestic product, was running for quite a while to be 0.25%. Today, Jamaica's GDP is running in the range of 1.5% to 2%. Did I get that right? And the question would be, what do you think? What are some of the reasons for that? Because people talk about the Chinese being in Jamaica and the infrastructure of Jamaica as we know it, and the development of the infrastructure. Sometimes people feel it doesn't do well for Jamaica. Can you touch a little about those?
Yeah, well, we have historically had a problem with economic growth. I mean, the high points really was the 1960s, when we averaged probably over 6% economic growth. In the 50s, it really began in the 50s under Norman Manley. But that was almost inevitable in a newly emerging independent state, and the opportunities that certainly would lie therein for a kind of development in areas like tourism and bauxite and all of those things. So the challenge we had during the 60s was comes back to the question of the distributive effect of the gains, because despite the fact that we were growing at 6 or 7 average %, that socially the disparity in wealth was becoming even more chronic and obvious, and unemployment was in double digit. Since then, we have struggled to get into. We haven't had since then double-digit growth rate at all. I mean, we're just barely hovering over 1 to 2 to 3% sometimes, and on average, as you say, is perhaps about 1% or less over the last 10 to 15 years. It is a puzzle even for the International Monetary Fund themselves, because whilst a number of the structural things have deficiencies have been addressed, not all, some, and the economy from their own prescription seems quite robust. Economic growth does seem quite elusive, and economists have argued, people like Professor Michael Witter and others have argued that part of the problem is how we measure economic growth. About half of the Jamaican economy is in the informal sector. It's not properly in informal sector.
What does that mean?
Means that these are persons who carry out economic activities that are not regulated, fully are partially regulated. The taxation is not accounted for. economic activities not properly measured, etc. So I'm on a hustle on the side of the road,
Right.
and one of the challenges, even in this pandemic period, is the extent to which the economy appears not to be crumbling, despite the fact that there's a negative effect on our labor market arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. Unemployment is now double digit, about 11-12%. Right? But the economy still seems to be
chugging along,
carrying on, and it raises a question about the impact and effect and the measurement of the informal sector, which is as large as the formal sector, and what role is it playing, has it played, in ensuring the sustainability of the economy. And that, as I said, I know is an issue that the IMF has pondered on. Why is it that all the things we have done can't create the kind of accelerated economic growth that would be concomitant with that level of infrastructural changes.
All right, folks, we're speaking to Mr. Danny Roberts. Danny carries many hats, and my virgin, he's a Palace board member. He's currently the chairman of the Hugh Lawson Shearer Trade Union Institute at UWI. I may have that slightly off.
So it's actually the head of the, I'm a senior lecturer, which is equivalent to associate professor.
Gotcha.
Head of the Hugh Shearer Labor Studies Institute at the University of the West Indies Open Campus. We're not different.
Yeah. Also, many calls have been coming in. We're going to open the phone line in 2 minutes. So if you want to drop a call here and then we pick it up, have a dialogue, have an exchange with Danny if you want to yield him up, because like I said, Danny, our bona fide, we've been having a good time. Yesterday we went and hung out down to the mall and some of these areas around here. Well, you've been to Atlanta before, have you?
Yeah, I was here when I served as I was chairman of the Michael Manley Foundation for 4 or 5 years. And I came up here 2006, I think it was, with Business Manley, when the Martin Luther King Foundation was honoring Michael Manley. And when the Martin Luther King Foundation was honoring Michael Manley, she and I came up to be part of that ceremony.
Wow. So, and I remember you were telling me that you were traveling in a taxi, I think.
Limousine.
Limousine. That's how little people visit.
With Sammy Davis Jr.'s wife. Yes, and some other Atlanta dignitaries. I think Andrew Young was in the limousine as well.
Okay.
Yes, a couple of us were there.
All right, folks, if you'd like to make the call, our 770-715-0224. There are about 5-6 calls that came in, but we didn't want to break the flow. We're going to end this at around 11 o'clock. As you know, Bangarang is coming up next. And
that number he just gave out is the actual call-in number for every time he does a show. And he does a show every day. I believe he starts the show about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Check him out, Ruler Brown, on Facebook and YouTube.
Again, any questions? Some people said some questions, but I don't write up questions. When I'm doing an interview, I don't write up questions. But someone had sent me some questions yesterday. Go, Tyler. All right, the call coming in. I'm going to pick up this call.
Give a little bit of something to a little bit of everybody. I know I can't please everybody.
Good morning. How you doing?
You know?
Yes, Ruler Day.
I recognize this vice of a big man. This. Go ahead, talk to the big man, buddy.
Yes. Well, first of all, we really want to hear them up still enough. As a man, we really come from the trees to the north.
Yeah.
And there are news large up than big up every time, Bridget. Yeah, man.
Yeah, how you hear me?
Yeah, man.
No. This is Mikey Campbell.
Mikey, hello?
KC, man.
Yes.
Come from Giant Lane, but them big down my yard and they run things on that.
This phone.
Your phone's right? All right.
Mike, you like it?
Yes, Danny. That's great. I pick up every time I tell you, man. Yeah, man. And first of all, Lord, I'm going to just heal up all the listeners and watchers internationally. Big up on yourself every time. Maureen and Michelle and Olga and...
No, Mike, I'm not hearing you clearly. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Just a second. Rula will provide the technical support for that.
All right, Mikey. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Mikey.
Yes, big up, Danny. Respect every time, man. I tell them, you know? Yeah, man. Proud of the eye, man. Yeah, man. Good to see your guy to step up in, you know? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And first, let me say, we big up all the listeners worldwide, because, you know, you have to give them shout out. Then keep the RBN thing going, you know?
Yeah.
Maureen and Michelle and SWA and Olga and all the crew, London crew and all the other crew, you know? Dumpling soup and everything. Big up on yourself every time. Yeah. But I tell you, man, hey, Danny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I heard an excerpt of a presentation that I think he made earlier this week. I think it was Tuesday. That related to labor laws. And I think one of the points that you're trying to make is that some of the current laws as they exist really need to be changed in some serious ways going forward. If, as you were talking about informal economy, if we really are to progress the way that we should, can you elaborate on the point you're making?
Yeah, I was making a presentation on the impact of COVID-19 and what it is that we need to do in a post-COVID-19 recovery scenario. And my focus was really on labor laws. And the point I was making is that what COVID has done is to expose the vulnerability of developed countries like Jamaica, our deficiencies in terms of both structural deficiencies and the whole issue of the supporting legislations that would be important in terms of driving a recovery along a particular line. And there are some quite obvious indicators coming out of the analysis of the impact of COVID. Of course, it affected the labor market more than any other area of the economy. And what was quite evident were the following. One, the importance of having the kind of legislation and social programs that provide support for the most vulnerable. That provides support for the most vulnerable in our society. So you're talking about minimum wage programs, you're talking about social protection, you're talking about unemployment insurance, etc. Because what the analysis, and this is right across the spectrum, all international agencies have concluded that one of the challenges in terms of how countries responded to the COVID, and what would certainly help in the recovery, is the extent to which they either have the extent of their informality, how deep, large is their informal sector. If your informal sector is large, then it is going to impact you even greater, and the recovery is even going to be even over longer duration. Questions of what kind of protection do you have for your labor force, and that has to do with income protection and social protection and job protection. And those countries that are weakest in those areas are the ones who are likely to have had the greatest impact, and also likely to have the greatest period of sustained length of time for their economic recovery. And so I was making the point that we need now to begin to adjust our labor laws to be able to correct those deficiencies so that our recovery can be certainly of a shorter duration.
Mike, you have a follow-up comment statement?
Yeah. What I want to say is, as I was listening to the excerpt, the first question that comes to mind is, change the law. How does it happen? Because it seems that our political system and our politicians are very slow, very, very slow at really changing some of our current laws and constitution, for that matter, to actually bring our society up to date, to bring us into the 21st century. So a lot of people like yourself have advocated that, changes in terms of labor law and so on. How does it get going? I mean, is it just enough to call for it and expect that the politicians are going to do it? What are your thoughts?
Well, two things. And I also made a point during the presentation that one of the things that Jamaica and indeed the Caribbean suffer from is an implementation deficit. We have an occupational safety and health bill that has been on the table now for upwards of 20 years. And for the life of me, I can't understand why it has not yet been passed. And the hope is that there's a labor advisory committee that consists of the social partners, trade unions, employers, government. I believe that they are vested with and seized of the importance of ensuring that there's an accelerated approach to having these legislative changes taking place. We have to rely heavily upon our parliamentarians, some of whom may be more seized of the importance of and sensitive to labor issues, and a recognition, therefore, of how important it is to have these passed. But I've said elsewhere that perhaps the university needs to adopt a course on implementation, because I really think that that's really a challenge that we face in Jamaica and indeed the Caribbean.
Well, Bridget, all the best going forward, and just keep the battle going, man.
Thank you very much, Mikey.
Strong and good up every time here, sir.
All right, all the best to you too. All right.
Yeah, man.
All right, Mikey, thank you so much for that. Mikey is a youth from Jardine,
Yes.
PC youth, but he's in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But he knows to the T what's going on in Jamaica. If there's any political breaking news down there, usually come on and give the people an update. And the folks love it. And it's good to know that you there. Usually go past it there and back in the days, man, barefoot pants, man. Yeah, man, I'm a virgin still, I think, man. The other day, I just want for you to just touch it slightly. The other day, there was an article was written, I think it was 3 weeks ago, about sexual harassment in Jamaica. That a lot of it now is being pushed back, well, not pushed, but men are the subject of sexual harassment increasingly. We know overall women. And I know you are one of the premier persons in Jamaica for, tackling this matter. Just summarize what you were getting at today.
Well, predominantly it is men who sexually harass women.
Mm-hmm.
The global figures probably put it at about 60 to 70% of the harassers are men or women, and it normally is in circumstances in which there's a poor relationship. Because based on kind of what they call a quid pro quo, like the supervisor, your manager, etc. This is not for Jamaica, because we don't have those kind of statistics for Jamaica, but there's been an increasing trend in the last couple of years of women harassing men.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that is not predominant. It's still predominantly men harassing women. But so in Germany, was one clear case of report coming out of Germany, which showed that there's an increasing number of women harassing men, and invariably these are in the kind of a poor relation dynamics, where you have the women have become more aggressive, as we know, in the last 20 more or so 3-4 decades. No longer the submissive type. If somebody them want them, go after them, like men kind of thing. So so that really was what I was just saying is just indicating that there's a rise in the number of harassments of men by women. Mm-hmm. But generally still 60-70% of cases are men harassing women.
COVID, you touched on it earlier. What have you seen as the real impact for Jamaica? Tourism, as you know, is our paramount business. Do you see it coming back next year or 2022?
Yeah, well, this concept of the new normal has, been a feature of the years beyond COVID. I don't know if it's going to come back this year. But I suppose the vaccine comes and the vaccine cures, like everything else, in another couple of years, we'll have forgotten about COVID. I will move on. As we have forgot about other, health issues, related issues, it goes back 100 or so years ago.
Right.
So I think that the vaccine may provide the antidote to the kind of cure, or we get back to a sense of normality that we were accustomed to. But I think that the world now recognize that they have to move on. They can't. You really just can't remain static. So you just have to meander and maneuver the way as best as possible by putting measures in place to deal with the COVID. But life has to go on, and economic activities have to take place.
Now the vaccine. You mentioned the vaccine, and it's just been rolled out within the past week. Are you getting a gauge as to how the Jamaicans will react to getting it? I heard a poll here in the States that before the election here in the States, 30% of the people said they will take the vaccine, and that's because it seems as though it was being politicized. Recently, the number has gone up to 70%. Is there a so-called tracking of the vaccine impact in Jamaica?
Not that I'm aware of. There's always been skeptics. I suppose so. Not that I'm aware of. There's always been skeptics. I suppose so. So certainly for me, the problem that I have certainly would be what is as one doctor put it, what is the long-term effect?
Mm-hmm.
Not in the side effect, but what are the long-term effects of COVID? What will, and nobody knows, in another 3, 4, 5 years,
right,
are there any consequences that will arise from the vaccine? These are unanswered questions.
Right.
But I think that clinically, one would recognize that the vaccine appears 95% success rate, suggests that it is something that we have to just try out. Yeah.
Now, one of the things is though, the vaccine has brought to one's attention stuff that happened with the Tuskegee and then Charlie, and that is one of the problems that really people are real. Is the government? Does the government plan to do a campaign to educate people more?
You quoted some figures here in the United States, and I think that the figures among the African Americans are 48%.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite skeptical about it, and again, there are of course historical antecedents for that. We have the eternal skeptics.
Yes.
Who just will say a dopey story in every situation. Yes, that's really into conspiracy theory. Surely, an education program has to be done to get people to have a buy-in, and I suppose over time, people will warm to it. And I think that it will be done. But, we still have to get past some of those conspiracy theory about what purposes. What was not certainly helpful was the statement earlier from, I think, came out of France, where they suggested some vaccine be tried first in Africa. Right? Those statements resonate with us. Yeah. And so it's not very helpful in that regard.
Yeah. All right, folks, we're speaking to Mr. Danny Roberts. We have a few more minutes. If you'd like to, one question somebody that's still in advance. Goat Island was big in the news for a while. Can you give us any update as far as what was the original point about Goat Island and why was it so controversial? and where is it today?
Well, at one time there was an argument about the Chinese getting Goat Island as part of an arrangement with the government. That's not the case. I mean, I did some checks. Goat Island is now a wildlife preserved conservatory. The National Environmental Planning Agency only 2 years ago designated as part of it's part of what we call the Portland Blight Protective Area.
Okay.
And so it's a sanctuary, it's a wildlife sanctuary, so designated, and so there'll be no development taking place at Goat Island.
No, we understand it's only about 1.2 miles long. What's the width?
Yes, this is about 2 kilometers by a little under 0.9 kilometers wide, 2 kilometers long, and it's about 1.2 miles.
Right.
Yeah.
Translation. All right, folks. Mr. Danny Roberts will be here. Let me ask you for another 13 minutes. You mentioned the Chinese. We have heard that the Chinese. And the Chinese have been in Jamaica for America, boy. There was a Chinese shop right up the road, and I'm searching. What is it with the current scenario? Just enlighten a lot of people. A lot of people have concerns about this, the situation about the Chinese. They come down here, they're building up, but we understand that there's some payback and so forth. Can you say whether or not, with the Chinese being there, building up the infrastructure, one of the key concerns people have is that, hey, they think that Jamaicans should be getting the bulk of the work. And you're in the economic system in Jamaica and you know what's going on. Just give us a little narrative in terms of that scenario and why, reasons as to whether or not it's working on a whole.
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, there have been concerns expressed about the absence of sufficient Jamaican labor on Chinese projects.
Okay.
Again, from my own observation, I don't represent the government. I can't speak for them, but as a Jamaican, one of the things that we have observed, and we have spoken about it, a couple of us, as friends, sharing thoughts.
And this is Danny Roberts being interviewed by Ruler Brown.
We're a Chinese.
Be sure to go and check out Ruler Brown.
Would come and complete his engineering work. He will be the person who also do the cleanup after the end of the day. Right? Now, under normal circumstances, the engineer does his work, he leaves, and you're bringing a man to do the cleanup. Right? So the kind of a dual role, complex role that the Chinese would have to take on, multiple roles, doing engineering work, doing the cleanup, doing the kind of thing, seems to be, and I put it no higher than that, one of the reasons why there is less of a reliance on the unskilled employment of Jamaicans. I remember when Pearl Charles was Minister of Labour, it came to his attention and he obviously did some investigation in that regard. On a broader scale, again, I don't know the intricacies of the agreements with the Chinese are in terms of transfer of skills and technology, etc. I think some element of that would undoubtedly be in any agreement in that regard. But on a more global, if not philosophical scale, what I would say is that there's people like Richard Bernal have certainly written about it, that what the Chinese represent is a desire to become perhaps the new empire. Europeans have dominated the world for centuries. America is seen as the major global power in certainly since the turn of the 20th century. And I think that Asia perhaps think it is its turn. That the Chinese are not without some amount of colonial aspirations, perhaps not new colonial aspirations, what we call imperialist design. would obviously, I believe, by his opinion, form part of their attempt to provide assistance to developing countries in Africa, in some parts of Asia and the Caribbean. I think there's a grand imperial design that is obviously evident in that. It's not simple out of generosity and help. I think there's going to be a quid pro quo. It's a transactional kind of arrangement that would obviously come out somewhere down the road.
All right, we have about 4 more minutes. We're going to wrap it with Mr. Roberts as he's taken time to come in and wrap with us. We covered a broad swath of topics, and there's an election recently here in the States, right, with a guy called 45. And I remember I was on the phone with you a couple of times trying to relay what my feeling and understanding of it is. And up to now, this guy has not say, yes, I've lost, I'm going to move on. Whereas in Jamaica, a couple of weeks prior, we had our elections down there, and boom, everything was settled. Do you see any point in time in Jamaica our situations getting anything like this?
No. I suppose the situation in the United States is an aberration. Because traditionally, can you imagine if Donald Trump had got the popular vote and still lost the
college? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't see us getting into that situation in Jamaica. I think that there's our politicians have a great deal of respect for democratic traditions and process. And in fact, when our electoral system was at its worst in the 70s and up to 1980, before we brought in the electoral advisory committee to reshape and create a model of electoral system, even in those difficult situations and circumstances where questions of garrison politics and hijacking of boxes and all of those were a feature of our electoral process, the outcome was still accepted. Because I think as Carl Stone, the late Professor Carl Stone in the 70s suggested that all it does is to increase the margin of victory in an already decided constituency. So whether GNP or PNP win, whatever electoral malpractices have never resulted in an overturn of the decision. It just resulted in a widening of that margin without ever change the feature. And those electoral malpractices really confined to certain inner cities, less so in rural areas and so on and so forth. So
finally, the PNP, the People's National Party, they're going through some kind of transition, and again, certain things you may not want to necessarily say, but just overall, do you see them correcting the little setbacks they had?
Yeah, the PNP's history is deep. I mean, I believe the tradition and history, and I believe, therefore, that the strength of that, the historical circumstances that led to the formation of the PNP's history, its antecedents is sufficiently strong to weather any temporary tempest that may now arise.
All right, well said. And finally, one more final. Palace. Take a moment to talk about Palace. If you can make an appeal to persons, we're going to be having our 11th anniversary event in Jamaica sometime in August. And again, if it weren't for people like yourself and Mr. Patrick Campbell, our chairman, you're one of our advisory board member. I know I've been the face of Palace, and we have an amazing board that really works to get us to where we are now. Just something, the struggle are going on yard with you. They could get to you, they must struggle. Anything you can reach out to the listeners in terms of how they can participate to help. And next year we're looking to ramp up. So for those of you listening, we've awarded 691 scholarships up to now, about 65 million Jamaican dollars. And again, Danny has made a real imprint in Palace and Danny and Mr. Patrick Campbell. I alone couldn't really do it. So I really appreciate what this guy's done so much. I can pick up the phone and call this man and say, Danny, can you make a thing happen for us? And him say, I know where he's at. I remember one year, National Baking, I just called him and said, boy, Danny, we look some extra money, and him just make 2 calls and they get $400,000. So for the listener, just really need the final minute closing thoughts about Palace and make an appeal to help.
Well, first of all, we have to pick up Ruler Brown.
Big up Ruler Brown.
I can't think of any other situation in which
Big up Ruler,
a person
really
coming out with that experience, going to get up and decide that he's going to just throw his entire life into a commitment to help with passion. Right? Obviously, these are multiple stories all over the place, but so he has demonstrated the kind of leadership and the kind of a fortitude and forbearance that I think has been very excellent in ensuring the success of this program. So I want to pick up Ruler Brown.
Thank you.
Really tremendous amount of work. And so it makes it easier for others
a part in my story
to support the leader.
My recovery.
Right? I mean, when you call, and this is what leadership is about. Leadership is about inspiring others to work for you and to support the cause. So now here's the appeal. There's a book that I keep on reminding. I spoke to Ruler about it, others, named Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, written by Joy DeGroy. It is an excellent book that helps you to understand yourself. And of course, the appeal is to African Americans, to black people in the main. Right? If you read that book, you get a better sense of who we are and why we are where we are. Now, the only solution to the problems of African Americans and persons who have been the victim of a slave past is education. A decolonization of our education process is paramount, is the number one priority that we have to take charge of. And so many of our people have been denied the opportunity to express themselves and to offer their true potential to the development process simply because of a lack of education. Here's an opportunity for you, all of us who have benefited one way or the other, to do that. I'm a member of the National Council on Reparation in Jamaica. So we talk about reparation. Part of that reparation has to begin through education. And so your contribution is going to help to begin the process of the decolonization of our education system so that we can help the next generation to find themselves.
Boy, well said, well said. Let me say, Danny, thank you so much for coming on. And my quick reaction to that is, when I started Palace years ago, it was something sitting here on my radio show, and there was a young lady, Vanessa Campbell, who was murdered, brutally murdered, really terrible. And I just started, maybe I could just come up with a little small scholarship to get the word out about her and her family. Could say, wow, she didn't die in vain. She was murdered in vain. And when I started with that notion on that first day on my show, I'd only thought I'd given 3 scholarships. She went to Bridgeport High, and I said, I'm making it 3 scholarships in her name. And the appeal, the passion I felt, I raised $2,000. And from that $2,000, I awarded 13 scholarships that first year. But it was subsequent to that, though, the connection with you and I and Patrick Campbell, the chairman, began. And believe you me, I'm a person who set high standard, work very hard. And, when I'm amongst people like you, and say you've worked and put forth for students, I have to step up my game. And I can just say, thank you guys. for letting Palace be the kind of success here. So that's it.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, so folks, that's about it.
My pleasure. Really, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share, part of our experience, and to hope that it inspire others to try to make their contribution to the development of our world. The world is our oyster, Jamaica, United States, wherever. So it's really not to impress you, but to impress upon you the importance of giving back and recognizing, accept your state, your historical circumstances, born at the ghetto, that's what it is, and but make the most of it, because we're great people.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let me just show a few of the doctors that this young man and the overall Palace team and some of the supporters have brought out about 50 medical doctors in Jamaica. And just repeat the name. What's the name of the book again? By Joy DeGroy?
Post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Try and get that book. And Danny Roberts, again, I want to thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long time coming. And we really want to say thank you so much. All right, folks, coming up in about 3 to 5 minutes. Bambara.
Yes. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you who may have come in and listened to this. As I said, I want to try to give a little bit of something for a little bit of everybody. Most of my LSs are going to be, more on, stuff like this, health awareness, but truth, things that need to be talked about, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. And again, I want to thank you all for coming in. I want to thank you all for being here, whoever did come in, and whoever, is listening behind the curtains, whoever may have replayed this to listen it back. And I want to say a big ups to Ruler Brown as well. Again, you can see Ruler Brown at Ruler Brown on Facebook. You can, I believe you can get him on YouTube. I'm going to try to get him on here with me and see if we can do, some type of collab. Sometime I'm on him, sometime he's on mine. And, he's a good friend of mine that I've known for many, many, many years. Well, I'm kind of exaggerating. It seems like many, many, many years. But I've known him for about 6 or 7 years. Maybe 7 years. Time does fly. That's what I said. It seems like many years. But he's a very, very sincere friend of mine. And I want you guys to go and check him out. You won't be disappointed. I promise you. Yeah? So Servant David, as usual, I said, love, manners, and elevation. Wanna walk good, yeah? Yeah.
Each and every one of you. Well, this is Servant David. And if you're looking for health awareness, elevation, games, stories, songs, comedy, and more, then come check me out. Servant David Show. Hi, man, and woman, them know. Content be your channel start grow. Stop right just for the all the info. You hear the name in the intro.